There's something strange about money that I've noticed after years of watching how people deal with it. You might be earning more than before, more stable than before. Maybe you're not struggling like you used to, but every time you're about to spend money on something, you still pause for a few seconds, not because you don't have enough money, but because deep down, something still feels uncertain. What's interesting is, that feeling has nothing to do with how much money you actually have. And most people don't really understand why it's still there. I've noticed a very common pattern. Someone just got paid. Their bank account looks better than usual. They open their phone, scroll past something they've wanted for a long time. They can absolutely afford it. It wouldn't affect their life at all, but instead of tapping buy, they start thinking, do I really need this? Maybe next month. Or maybe not. And then they close it. Not because they don't want it, but because they don't feel comfortable spending the money. What's interesting is, this feeling doesn't go away even when income increases. It just changes shape. Main idea 1, that something's not right. Feeling doesn't come from not having enough money. It comes from not clearly understanding where your money actually is. I've realized something that a lot of people overlook. They think feeling anxious about money means they don't have enough of it. But in reality, a lot of people who do have money feel the exact same way. What's interesting is that uneasy feeling usually shows up when you don't have a clear picture of your finances. It's not that you don't have money. It's that you don't know exactly how much you actually have left each month, which expenses are fixed and which are flexible. If something happens, how long you can handle it. When these things aren't clear, your brain defaults to one assumption: maybe I'm not safe. And once that feeling of not safe appears, every spending decision becomes harder. A very everyday example: someone still has money left over every month, but because they don't track it clearly, they always feel like, am I overspending? So the result is, they don't spend comfortably, but they're not really in control either. They live in this in-between state, not broke, but not at ease either. Most people don't realize money itself doesn't create a sense of security. Clarity about your money does. And when you lack that clarity, you'll always feel like you're not ready, even as your balance keeps growing. Here's the simple truth that sticks. It's not that spending is hard for you. It's that you're spending inside a system you don't fully understand. Main idea 2. Earning more doesn't make things feel easier. It just makes decisions more complicated. I've noticed something pretty counterintuitive. A lot of people think once they make more money, everything will feel easier. Spending becomes more relaxed, less overthinking, less pressure. Sounds logical, but what's interesting is, in reality, the opposite often happens. When your income is low, financial decisions are simple. You know your limits. You don't have many options, so you don't overthink. But when your income starts to grow, something else grows too: the number of choices. You start asking yourself things like, should I upgrade this? Is this level reasonable? If I spend this, will it affect me later? And now every decision is no longer just yes or no. It becomes, what's the right level? That's when things get complicated. A subtle but very real example. Before, you just picked something that fit your budget. But now, with more income, you start comparing. Is this version better? Is it worth the price? If I choose the cheaper one, am I being smart or just afraid to spend? And suddenly, even a small decision takes a long time. Not because you lack money, but because you lack a clear standard to decide. Most people don't realize when money increases, the problem is no longer, do I have enough? It becomes, what's the right way to use it? And if you don't have a clear answer, you'll always hesitate. You can afford more things, but you don't feel comfortable buying them. You have more choices, but it's harder to decide. Here's what sticks. Money doesn't simplify your life. It just shifts the problem from limits to choices. And without a clear way to handle those choices, you'll always feel like you're doing something wrong, even when you're not. Main idea 3. The need to control money can quietly take away your ability to actually enjoy it. I've noticed something very subtle, but it affects a lot of people. When you start caring about money, you learn how to control it. You track your spending, think before buying, be more intentional with decisions. That's a good thing. But what's interesting is, if you go too far in that direction, it starts to backfire. You're no longer just managing money. You start holding on to it tightly. A simple example: someone spends a lot of time optimizing their finances. They know every small expense. They avoid anything they consider unnecessary. But when there's a chance to experience something truly meaningful to them, they hesitate. Not because they can't afford it, but because they've gotten used to not spending. They feel uncomfortable when money leaves their account. What's interesting is that feeling isn't really being frugal. It's more like a psychological reflex. Every time you spend money equals a signal of loss. And if that signal repeats long enough, your brain starts to assume keeping money is always safer. Most people don't realize money isn't just meant to be accumulated. It's meant to support your life. But when you focus too much on control, you slowly lose the ability to use money naturally. You save better, but feel less comfortable. You make fewer bad spending decisions, but you also enjoy less. And then something strange happens. You have money, but you don't feel like you have the right to use it. What sticks is this: when holding on to money becomes a reflex, using it starts to feel like pressure. Main idea 4. Financial pressure doesn't come from how much you spend. It comes from the commitments you've quietly accepted. I've noticed something that a lot of people don't realize until it's too late. Financial pressure rarely shows up the moment you spend money. It shows up later, very quietly. You subscribe to something. You upgrade a part of your life. You agree to a recurring expense. At that moment, everything feels reasonable. It's only this much per month. It's not a big deal. I can handle it. But what's interesting is, your brain doesn't look at each expense individually. It feels the total weight. And every small commitment is like a financial promise you've made to yourself. A very everyday example: someone doesn't spend a lot on any single thing, but they have a bunch of small, ongoing costs. A service they barely use, a subscription they forgot to cancel, an upgrade they felt was worth it. Nothing is technically wrong, but when it all adds up, they start wondering, where did all my money go? And more importantly, they start to feel financially suffocated. Not because of one big expense, but because they've committed to too many things. Most people don't realize financial pressure doesn't come from making one bad decision. It comes from stacking too many obligations. Until you lose flexibility, you can't easily cut back anymore. You can't adjust when something unexpected happens. And that's when things start to feel heavy. The tricky part is, you don't notice it at the beginning. It builds slowly, quietly, until one day you realize you're stuck inside your own financial system. Here's what really sticks. It's not how much you spend that creates pressure. It's how many commitments you can no longer walk away from. Main idea 5. You're not actually short on money. You're missing a clear stopping point. I've noticed something strange, but it shows up again and again in different people. They don't overspend. They don't live extravagantly, but they always feel like they need to push just a little bit more, a little more savings, a little more security, a little more preparation. It all sounds reasonable. But what's interesting is that little bit more never ends. It keeps moving. A simple example: when you don't have much money yet, you think, once I reach this number, I'll be okay. But when you actually reach it, your brain adjusts the target. Maybe I need a bit more to feel safe. And it keeps going like that. You move forward, but the feeling of enough never arrives. Most people don't realize financial security doesn't come from a number. It comes from having a clear stopping point, a clear definition of what is enough when things are okay, when you're allowed to stop worrying. If you don't have that, you'll always feel like you're still trying, even when you've already come a long way. This creates a very quiet loop. You work more, earn more, save more. But inside, it never feels lighter, not because you don't have enough money, but because you've never allowed yourself to stop and say, this is enough. And without a stopping point, everything turns into a race with no finish line. Here's what stays with you. Money doesn't make you feel enough. Only a clear definition of enough can do that. I've realized a lot of financial problems don't come from how much you earn. They come from how you understand and experience money. You can have money and still feel unsettled. You can be in control and still not feel comfortable using it. You can be on the right path and still feel like you're not there yet. What's interesting is those feelings don't mean you're doing something wrong. They just mean you don't fully see your own financial system yet. It's not clear. It has no standard. It has no stopping point. And when those are missing, every decision around money feels heavier than it needs to be. If there's one thing you take away from this video, it's probably this. You don't need more money right now. You need a clear understanding of how your money actually works. And once you have that clarity, everything starts to feel lighter. If you saw yourself in any part of this, you're probably not the only one. And this is probably just the beginning of the conversation. You can subscribe to the channel, not for complicated advice, but to slowly understand the simple things that quietly shape the way you live with money every day.